Hey everyone, in this video we'll be showing you how to do your hair for performances using a kika. Start off with hair that's usually day 2 is a pretty good day. It's not too dirty, but you don't want it freshly washed. When it's freshly washed, you'll have a lot of baby hairs. It'll just be harder to work with, but you also don't want it too dirty. So start by parting your hair down the middle, making sure that the part is as straight as you can get it. So next we're going to French braid both sides of the hair. You want to make sure that you're doing a French braid and not a Dutch braid. So you're pulling the hair over the braid instead of under. You also want to make sure that the braid is sitting closer to the ear rather than high up towards the part. This is so that the kika actually has some hair to latch onto when we pin it. Then using a small rubber elastic that matches your hair color, tie the braid tightly. Once you have French braided both sides of your hair, it's time to start crossing them over to pin it. If you have layers like Nina does, don't worry if you have little stragglers poking out of the braid. If you do it correctly, it should be neat and hidden, so don't worry too much about that. So next we're going to just cross the two braids at the nape of the neck and then slowly pin our way up. We're also going to loop the ends of the braid back under itself, rather than taking it up to the top of the head as you see here. So by looping the ends of each braid back under themselves rather than all the way to the top of the head, we're just providing a cleaner look and making sure that the kika has enough hair to actually latch onto. Now you can take the opportunity to pin in any layers that you see poking out, as well as to hairspray or gel any baby hairs at the front or back of the head. So this is what your kika should look like. You're just going to braid both sides of the kika. Make sure that the braids are not overly tight. If they're too tight, you're going to lose out on some length, and we also want to make sure that the kika looks full. When you tie off the ends, you might need to trim them off a little bit just because they can be a little bit long. You also want to make sure that the braid is nice and neat and that there's as minimal frizz as possible. So to start, you're going to take the rubber band and you're just going to place that section of the kika at the nape of the neck and then pin along the bottom. So one really important thing to note is that when you're pulling the kika up and you're pinning, you want to make sure that the top of the ear is being covered by the kika. So eventually you would pull over the other side to pin it, and it would also just lay right over the ear and then the end would get tucked in. So the sides of the kika should be pretty flat on the head, and then at the top we're actually going to make what we call a crown. So to make the crown, you're basically just going to pull that top kika onto the one that's under it. The goal at the end is to be able to see both of the braids as much as you can, and to make sure that the crown is pretty high at the top of the head. You also want to make sure that you're laying the braids no more than 2 inches from the forehead. Taking your bobby pins, you're just going to pin the crown from the back of the head. This way you won't see any visible pins from the front. You also want to make sure that you're holding that top braid so that it doesn't fall. It's also super important to note to use bobby pins that match the color of your hair. So if you're a brunette, don't use any pins that are blonde or light in color. So now you can take the opportunity to hairspray your kika if you have any flyaways, as well as gel or hairspray down any baby hairs at the front of the face or at the back of the neck. You can also just play around with it and make sure that the sides are nice and flat and that the ears are covered. And that is the final look on how to do your hair for performances. Thanks for watching!